initially muted, but then after I do the intro, we should be live in about 30 seconds. Had to shout out Nipsey. And can you guys? And with that, we are live for another Hip Politics Happy Hour. What's up, people? Welcome to everybody to, hey. Welcome to the Hip Politics fans and listeners. More importantly, welcome to all my happy hour guests. This is another edition of the Hip Politics Digital Happy Hour, Culture Conversations. Just getting good people together to have good conversation as we're all kind of locked down and quarantined in our respective homes and cities, and then try to realize like the world's not going to stop, and we really need to kind of kick it in high gear. So these kind of cultural conversations amongst good people are meant just for that. Today is the theme loosely is keeping community alive, and that means both keeping our people alive, but then also kind of keeping our groups, our organizations, our networks, our parties, and so forth, our friend circles, our family, keeping our various communities alive and well during this time. So that's kind of what we wanted to kick off with. So we got a great panel. I think a few people might be jumping in a little bit. Okay, CJ, I see you. I see you at the bottom, CJ Lawrence with Black with No Chaser. But I'm gonna kick off the conversation with this. Oh, that was me, I think. I'm gonna kick off the conversation with this. All of you all have different audiences that you kind of communicate to, whether it be, I know, podcasts or media audiences. People are working at different national organizations, local organizations. Some of you, like even like Desiree, is a broadcaster, social media influencer, people internally in your organization. How are you guys communicating to people, to your audiences, like in this time?
Sure. So I'll go ahead and jump in, Ken. Thanks so much for inviting me to be a part of today's conversation. I'm Larry Brown Jr., everyone. I'm the National Director with the NAACP's AXO program. And we kicked off this pandemic with engaging not just our members, but the general public. Oh, full disclosure, everybody, since we're quarantining, it's a full daycare center at my house, and it's a full office. So you will hear my 9-month-old daughter and my 3-year-old son in the background doing all kinds of stuff right now because we just finished family dinner. So, we kicked off this engagement really with really trying to inform the public. So we had a esteemed panel of folks that we invited to produce a teletown hall just to inform the public about what's coming, what could happen, and how they can begin to take action to not just protect their family, but to really ensure the infrastructure and the sustainability of their communities. You can hop over to the NAACP's website to take a listen to that. In addition to that, we've been filtering Q&As from all over the country just to keep people informed on the ground, as well as to give them the action that they should be taking in order to ensure peace and, as I said before, sustainability in their communities. I won't go into the nitty gritty of it, but I invite you to go to that website, to our website at naacp.org, and take a look at the things that we're producing. And currently, right now, after you're done listening to Cameron here at Hip Politics, I invite you to go over to our website as well and listen to what the Youth and College Division is doing to engage all of our young people that are currently in college as well.
Larry, are people actually tuning in though? I'm curious.
Are people tuning into the Teletown Hall? Absolutely.
Like so, the different town halls, like are your numbers like better than?
Yeah.
Like,
so when we did the initial Teletown Hall, we had almost 30,000 people that were listening live. I'm not sure how many people have engaged since the recording was posted, because that's not my lane, and I've got a whole other contingency I'm dealing with the people that I'm serving. But I do know that for the Teletown Hall from the beginning, and then we had the all-women panel last week that featured so many different women influencers and leaders and thought contributors. Those numbers have been impactful and are telling an amazing story, which is fueling the work that we're doing across different lines. That's in health, economics, climate justice, and you name it, we're doing it. So we've been really leaning in heavily in the policy conversations on the Hill, especially with the stimulus packages, the package that came out.
That stimulus is like, yeah, it hits so many different people. Who else is like got all you guys serve different audiences. I'm curious to like how you
Oh,
guys.
I was gonna chime in, Cameron.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So good to see you.
I'm Angel Livas. I'm the founder of The Woman Behind the Business and the host of the Woman Behind the Business talk show. And so one of the things that we've been doing just to stay connected is to continue with what we were doing before, just changing how we were doing our outreach. So we were supposed to have a women winning in government contracting event that was supposed to have been held in Washington, D.C. But instead of us being able to do it live, we made it a virtual event. So our attendance was still good because we had sold tickets. And so everybody still showed up to the event live. And then we also made the recordings available so people can still get the information. I think for me, the most important part right now is to have people creatively come up with things that they can be doing remotely. I know earlier before we went live, people were saying, you know, they're working out, they're joining different groups to stay active and engaged. And I think that that's really important, that if you have a business or whatever it is that you're doing, you just have to pivot and make sure that you can connect with these audiences just in a different way, because we need it. And right now, I just believe that we should be ensuring that we're continuing to grow with our personal and professional development. But at the end of the day, we're really going to see the people who were working hard, trying to figure out, okay, this isn't really what I want to do. I should be focused on this, and really building in the lanes in which they really want to propel in.
So I'll also jump in there, Cameron. So I'm Mia Keeys, and I serve as the director of I serve as the director of Health Equity Policy and Advocacy for the Center for Health Equity, the National Center for Health Equity that's out of the American Medical Association. And it's the first center of its kind in the largest physician body, organized body in the nation. We have over 210,000 physicians who are a part of our membership, and over its 175-year existence, the AMA has never really had a focus on equity issues, on health disparities up until a year ago this week, in fact. So really exciting stuff going on over at AMA, Center for Health Equity. I'd love to share with you all offline what we're doing. But in terms of answering the question, how we're reaching our membership, so like I said, we focus on physicians and really ensuring that our physicians have not only what they need to deliver care and deliver care well, but to deliver care in an equitable way. Not everyone, I know I don't have to preach to the choir, especially, I know Larry knows this coming out of NAACP, you know, a lot of people in different communities, ours included in terms of Black and Brown people, have always had really disparate access, not only to care, but in terms of representation, there's not always been consistent representation across racial and ethnic lines in terms of who our physicians are. And so right now the center's focusing predominantly on reaching out to our physicians who are people of color, our physicians who are predominantly serving people of color, and even deeper than that, those who are serving them around the clock in rural areas, in medically underserved areas, and historically just blighted areas. And what we're hearing back from not just our AMA body is some of the stories that you all are hearing in the news, which is physicians are really running low on their PPE, their personal protective equipment. This is the stuff that keeps them from contracting coronavirus and really any other threats that they consistently come head to head with. They are literally lacking the armor that keeps them on the battlegrounds. I saw a post today. I've seen a lot of that.
I've been seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, for sure. One I saw a post today. One of our members was given a poncho to protect them from, and because their hospital had run out of PPE, out of proper wear, and so that's a problem. And so going back to what I said earlier about the fact that AMA has not necessarily always had a history of really honoring and recognizing the unique challenges that especially Black and Brown people face. And I'm bringing that up because if you look across really any pandemic historically, Black and Brown people, low socioeconomic,
we're the ones that are hit the hardest.
That's right. We're going to die. I mean, we're going to die at higher rates. And I don't want to presume that anyone isn't directly impacted by COVID-19 so far. And if you are, I certainly send my prayers and my thoughts out to you. But just to wrap this up, we're also reaching beyond our membership body. We're talking to physicians who are with the National Medical Association, and the NMA represents the largest body of physicians who are African American. We're reaching out to the NHMA, the largest physician body of people who are of Latinx background, and the AAIP, the American Indian, the Association of American Indian Physicians, and
yeah,
also
I'm curious about that. And actually, a couple other people I know, like with Naomi and Kristal, you guys are in like large regional organizations. And then even with CJ down with Black with No Chaser, in terms of like having large captive audiences that need this information. You guys,
with the small business too.
oh yeah, that's right.
So I was going to hop in. Naomi Shelton with the KIP Foundation. I serve as the very first community engagement director. Of course, we all know that schools across the country have been really affected by how to, think about and execute distance learning. With the KIP Foundation and with KIP schools across the country, we serve more than 100,000 students. And also have 242 schools across the country. And that means that each one of those schools has to determine how they're going to best engage and interact and share information with the families of the students they serve. And so one of the things that we are doing is thinking about how do you, from the gate, how do you effectively communicate? So that means your website, your social media channels, all of those things need to reflect what is happening there on the ground. But then also from the foundation perspective, in terms of supporting each of those regions, if a region is lax or needs some support in some of the work that they're doing, how do we go about thinking about and focusing on sharing information in a way that is consistent with what we see, from our high performing schools across the country. So making sure that our distance learning information is set up every single day. We have schools such as KIP DC who are really focused on how do we engage students day in and day out. So each one of the, and sorry for the background noise, it is, I live in a condo building.
Everybody, I mean, we're all in like,
right, we're all at home.
Living in a home. You're living in a, because this is my next question to people, like, because we're living in a home, office, daycare, right, school, grocery store, restaurant, happy hour. Yeah,
we're sharing videos, we're doing all those great things to make sure that students are engaged, but we're also sharing information with parents. We have out in California, in the Bay Area, we've set up, we don't call them hotlines. They don't call them hotlines because they're not open 24/7. We call them warm lines, and families can call in and even apply to receive funding to support to support any needs that they have. And so they have a script that they run through to make sure that people are answering questions and align with what it is that we have set forth in terms of parameters and what they need to demonstrate as a need. And they can call whenever, and if it's off hours, they're able to leave a message, and the team is on a rotation of following up with families. And so, we not only have to think about the students and making sure that they're getting the education that they need, but we're also thinking about how do we effectively communicate with parents and make sure that their needs are being met as well. And then from the foundation side, we're also thinking about how are we making sure that funds are getting to the schools and doing the federal policy work as well.
That's huge. I'm curious to because as the people who are responsible for basically getting information out to other people, what information are you prioritizing in terms of the information that you decide to receive, you decide to receive, take it in, and then this is the information I'm deciding to spread out. I know, I'm curious to that, especially with CJ and Desiree. Desiree, you're a reporter and a broadcaster, and CJ, you have a media company, but you have to get in information in order to decide what you decipher through what you're getting out. Can you tell me where are you getting your information right now? Because it's coming from so many different places that it's hard to figure out.
Sure. Good evening, Cam. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having
and
all
really
of us.
Quickly, happy birthday, CJ.
Just thank you. Hey,
thank you so
You're
welcome.
Oh, have a toast.
That's right.
Toast.
Hey, CJ.
I got a shot glass right here.
So, I have to show off for my Tougaloo fam.
This is my sister right here, man. And hey, you got one coming up, so I know it's really exciting. This is we literally connected at Tougaloo the moment we met each other, because we're both Team Aries, and so it's dope to be on here with you. I'm super excited about it. Cam, with regard to some of the things, so yeah, I'm CJ Lawrence with Black with No Chaser, CEO of Black with No Chaser. And yeah, we are a new media company. What we're doing right now, we're gathering a lot of our information from the CDC and WHO mainly, and we're trying to basically keep a running timeline of things right directly on our website. And we typically just utilize our website as a funnel to disseminate that information across social media platforms, where we have approximately 500,000 followers on a pretty consistent basis on those platforms. But in addition to that, some of the things that we're doing is directly engaging our audience through programming that we've created, like the Black Lunch Break, which you have actually been a guest on. It gives us the opportunity to discuss policy. Yeah, absolutely. And you were one of the dopest, man. We're really glad to have you, glad to have Breon to introduce thoughts and ideas to our audience. But also this is a time where in being in your home, many of us have to keep our morale up as well, have to find other ways to continue to connect with one another. So the way that we kind of integrate messaging with regard to what's happening with coronavirus into things is to continue to do what we do, as well as I believe it was Angel spoke about earlier, is continuing to entertain, continuing to inform. We continue to write our stories, to blog about it, and things of that nature. But in addition to that, what has been born sort of out of this necessity of right now, and this confinement is a new means of creativity within a lot of us, in learning how to remain connected in spite of the circumstances.
As I've been saying, out of isolation has come creation.
Yeah, I mean, like
Hey, Des,
what we're doing right now.
real quick, I have a question, Des, because you're down in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Like, I always feel that, and this is not based on anything, but like when you're out in the Midwest, and CJ's down in Mississippi in the deep South, like sometimes the information may be a little tainted, comes through a little differently. Like, how are you getting information? Because like you go on and broadcast for different sporting events have shut down, but how are you getting your information? You're being like one of the younger people from the group.
Well, first of all, I'm Desiree, like you said. You know, I'm down here in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'll apologize in advance because I have a 2-year-old. But my information. Hi.
Cute.
So I'm really getting my information from our athletes. I deal a lot with one-on-one interviews, or maybe even 2 to 3 guys at a time, or girls at a time. So I've kind of turned from the studio type setup to IG Live, or Zoom, something like this, to try and like get other people's feedback of like what's going on, what are you guys going to do from here. Today I actually had one, and it was a senior baseball player, and his season had been completely canceled. So and a lot of those players look forward to their senior season, because this is the season that they're going to get drafted, or maybe know what they're going to do moving forward. So it's really interesting to hear from the guys and their perspective, and what they're hearing from their coaches, and what they're hearing from the SEC maybe, etc. So that's where I get a lot of my information. My platform, I kind of like to hear from the players and the athletes, and tell their story more so than tell the news. So yeah, that's where I'm getting my stuff.
Lee, you're a writer too. That's how we connected. Like, you actually helped Hip Politics out and wrote a great piece for us during CBC. So
CBC,
yeah, shameless plug there. But how are you as a reporter, like deciding to get information and then kind of churning it back out, because we're feeding from people like yourself?
Mm-hmm. So I'm Philippe. I'm a freelance reporter and writer. I'm getting my information from the World Health Organization when I do submit stuff from the medical side, I am a patient advocate during the day and a writer part-time. So shout out to Desiree, because I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. But no, I've been trying to do more of getting the young entertainers out there, so the filmmakers and creatives. So what inspired me was going to the African American Black Film Festival and seeing all these creatives create these nice, wonderful projects that aren't being seen. So I'm like, why are we just sitting here looking at Netflix and chill? Well, Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, when we have all these great projects that are not put out there. Like I watched this film the other day, Coffee and Kareem, and was highly disappointed. I'm just like, we need these young people out there who are creating these beautiful stories for us. And I've been to plenty of film festivals. I think, Cameron, that's where I met you at, right?
Yeah.
The Smithsonian Black Film Festival. And so that's what I've been doing, is just reaching out to different smaller platforms. I mostly write for Taj Mag, just to get people out there and watching these young creatives put stuff out there. So that's what I've been doing mostly, because during the day, I am a patient advocate, so I'm running around this coronavirus.
You're running around like this is really. So I have a question. One question I did ask you guys in advance, and I'm curious to a couple, because Sanji is on here. I know you own your own business. Angel owns her own business. And then I know a couple, and Renee, a few of you guys own your own businesses, but I'm curious, what is your planning for the summer? Because I'm trying to plan for the summer. We've already had to shut down like events we're doing. Just even now, I'm even starting to question, like, is ALC, Congressional Black Caucus, about to happen? Like, is that, like, do I have to start planning that far ahead? But as I'm curious to both of you all, especially Sanji, because you deal with a lot of like event planning. So
yeah,
like, how are you planning your business and like work for the summer with what's going on?
So I'm Sanjay DeCaries. I have my own event planning company and had it for the last 13 years, Sanjay Productions. And it has definitely been a change, because a lot of my fall is going to be popping, like, so, because everything has kind of like shifted, and we don't even know how long this pandemic will last. But right now, everyone has shifted all of their events from like what was supposed to be happening in April, May, June. Everything has been switched to like September. But then also on top of that, like, for instance, like one of my clients, I do marketing and events and promotions. And one of my clients owns a mental health facility. He has 5 in the Maryland, DC area. And what we've been, and I said, what we talked about before, I forgot, I think if CJ may have said something in reference to just being creative and innovative in different ways. So we've created a lot of like online programming, because this stress, anxiety, depression is all coming from this whole pandemic. And so we've created a lot of online programming for just for everyone to tune into through Facebook, through Instagram. So we're just trying to look and pivot and do different things to engage folks, and then to also address some of these issues. And then also some of the things we've done, I know you guys probably may have stepped into Club Quarantine that D Nice has been doing, right? So that's been popular.
Howard been in there strong. Howard been in there
like,
strong. Hey,
super strong every week.
You talking about Hampton? Are you guys talking about
What's
Hampton?
that? What's a Hampton?
That's how you can
It's not Thanksgiving. No ham is allowed. It's not Thanksgiving or Christmas.
I like that, Larry. I'm gonna use that. No ham is allowed.
So anyway, so so that kind of has kind of helped initiate some other creative ways. Like we do a brunch, on Sundays, and we kind of create
digital brunch.
Yeah, digital brunch.
So who cooks during the digital brunch? Please, has anybody else gone on any digital brunches? Can you raise your hand if you've gone on a digital brunch? Because I saw a flyer.
I host a prayer breakfast.
Okay.
So does everybody cook? Did everybody cook it? Renee, who cooked at your digital brunch? You had to obviously cook your own stuff.
Yeah, so I am not a cook, so they are still doing delivery, and I am a person that advocates for small business owners, so I will support them during this time and continue. So if you know a great small business that delivers, please let me know if you're in the DMV.
So let me tell you, Renee, when I recently interviewed the owner of Milk and Honey, And I've literally made the suggestion for like brunches and these prayer breakfasts that you set up with a nice restaurant, and then the people who register, that way it's helping the restaurants get money, have them deliver for your prayer breakfast or deliver for whatever your event is. That way it's a new experience for everybody. You know, if let's say it's $50 to join the prayer breakfast or whatever you would pay if you were actually there.
Not from home, $50. I'm sorry. No.
You're getting a
That's what I was thinking.
You said check. You said check.
$50 is also the service.
Well, I don't know how much.
No, and I think you need to make the point about we still have to continue to support these small business owners. Yes. And now more than
Absolutely,
ever, I would be willing to pay $50 because this is probably the only meal that they're going to deliver that day. So this is all the money today they're going to make. And if it wasn't for us, we would have more businesses going out
of business.
Well, business.
Renee, the thing is, it's not even just the restaurant. If it's $50, now you can pay the event planner who's organizing this event. You can pay the restaurant, and the people who are attending, they're getting something out of it. That's the way that I've been doing things. The women winning in government contracting, it was between $35 and $50 that people paid. But it was the experience. You're still getting information. You're still getting fed whatever it is that you're looking for. So we have to come up with, like Cameron said earlier, creative ways to still make sure that we can stimulate the economy and we can make sure that what we're doing, we feel good about it.
I wanted to get this next question that I had, and I wanted to throw out. I would definitely want to hear from Audra, Kristal, Renee, and Jamal on this. Because all of you either you are a brand and or manage a brand that has tied, well, specifically, I definitely know to Renee and Jamal, and then Audra, because you do work in Congress, and so you're working for people who are worried about their social and digital brand, and Kristal as well with priorities. Like, do you feel like people are getting, well, how are you keeping your brand or the thing you're doing alive? Social, like via social media, like, because I think now in week 3, people are starting to get some virtual fatigue. I could start to feel for that, but I'm curious, like, if any of you guys want to jump in on like how you keeping like their social media. Yeah, start off or kick us off.
Yeah, and just so people know, my 9 to 5, I advocate for small business owners on Main Street. So I work for Main Street Alliance as a senior government affairs manager. And we've been doing a lot for small businesses and making sure in this last stimulus package, there are some relief to small business owners. And actually, it's been a crazy few days this week already, because we're already talking about the 4th stimulus package that's about to come up. And so definitely, if anybody has any small business issues or anything like that, please let me know, because we need to hear from small business owners because they want to do more loans versus grants. Now, talking about branding and online presence and are people getting fatigued? I say no. Personally, I'm seeing my calendar fill up with things that I never even did before, things I wanted to try. I'm able to drop into this one, like aerobics class, then I could go to a spin class, and I can do all this from the confines of my home. I don't have to go anywhere. And it's actually making me more active, I feel like I'm being more productive. I'm able to nap more.
You said nap? Oh, you're getting in more naps?
Yes, I'm getting in more naps.
How are you napping more?
Wait, now you need to do a lesson on that.
There's no more nap. There's no napping. No, ma'am. How?
And you know why? Because this is the problem. We don't take the importance of sleep. Sleep is so important to us.
No, I get my rest. Me and the lavender oil are still going.
And I've seen that there's great programming that's coming on a little later. And I want
to. You must not have no kids, Renee.
I don't, but that's okay. Because there's nothing wrong with
and Renee, I'll say this, because my organization
yes, that is why. You see my child.
Listen, I did get in my feelings about the nap though, because my organization already functions semi-virtually. A lot of us do work out of our home, so there was no shift. And you had to ramp it up because we're now dealing with how to deal with kids. But continue, Renee, not to, jump.
No, oh, that's real. Because I think everyone's like, you should write the greatest novel at this time. But if you have not adequate sleep, rest, and time management already, that's not going to happen right now. What you're going to feel like it's stressful, it's a burden, and it's a problem. So take this time, enjoy it. find something new, try something new. It's okay. And I think, yes, do your work, do your job, do your due diligence. But also with this time, it's great to create content. But if you don't want to create it, it's not like you should be shamed for it. I think you should take this time for whatever you need for you. Maybe it's a time where you focus on your health. Maybe it's a time you focus on your spirituality, but like use the time wisely and do what's best for your soul.
Renee, I want to pick up with what you're saying, because you're talking about something that in a lot of ways is socially stigmatizing. A lot of people, and I would love to hear more from the entrepreneurs in the group. You know, the hustle mentality is real. It's not it really is the approach you must take in order to thrive and for your livelihood to continue, right? So that's that one part. But I think for a lot of other people who for this in this time is they don't really know what to do with all this extra time, feel guilty about rest, because, you know, for so long, you know, it's the hustle, it's the grind, it's the, okay, if I'm not doing, then you know, something's going to be done to me, you know, and it's
I like that. Something, if I'm not doing, something's going to be done to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
in this DC environment, it's such a cutthroat transactional place. But the thing about rest is you can't be creative without rest. Renee already mentioned it. And then the other thing is too, in terms of pandemic, the next wave, aside from COVID-19 re-emerging in a different strain seasonally, because that is definitely going to happen, we're going to have a mental health crisis on our hands throughout the nation. And if we don't get ahead of it, we will all be sick.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cameron.
Real quick, Jamal, because I wanted you to jump in on that in the sense of like, for everybody who doesn't know Jamal Lemmy, I got to know Jamal very well about 2 years ago. He's from Parkland, Florida. He was one of the co-founders of the March for Our Lives organization. We spent several weeks, actually months, touring the country for gun violence prevention after obviously a very tragic event. But he was the creative of the organization, like one of their like iconic design that allowed people to register to vote. And then you've since been doing a lot of creative projects with other organizations, nonprofits. But I'm curious, because a lot of us are in like major city DC bubbles. You went back down to Florida, like out the way. Like, how are you keeping, with so much of what you do is tied to online presence and like organizing digitally and being a creative? Like, what are you doing to keep it alive, keep yourself creative?
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate that. I'm Jamal, and yeah, so I spent quite a bit of time traveling the country, connecting with just different communities, and a lot of my work has kind of lived in the physical space, and just because of the creative nature, moved to digital spaces. And yeah, before kind of the whole quarantine, I go to school in New York City, and when I figured out things were, people were going to be at home, and things are slowing down, I kind of hightailed back to Florida. And the reason I got up out of Florida to begin with was just because, it's frankly, it's people walking their dogs, going to the beach. There isn't much industry for young people outside of hospitality. And I'm a filmmaker and designer and entrepreneur. So there's not really much, there isn't really much opportunity. And what I realized kind of being back home was that I get an email or a text every other day, kind of with people asking, like, so what now? What are we doing now? Like, how are our brands going to stay active during this kind of period of self-isolation or quarantine? And it's funny because I was in the middle of actually my first full service design studio that I was kind of developing, and I was in this whole startup stage and kind of bringing on advisors and et cetera. And, everything just kind of stops and it halted. But what I saw it as is it created an opportunity. And I know, I think someone mentioned it earlier, where it really has created an environment where I'm allowed to now experiment and, look into spaces that I wasn't, I just frankly wasn't looking at before. And like, whenever I was posed with the question of like what people do now, it's like, no one's really reinventing the wheel here. A lot of these kind of convenings are coming in the form of lives, Zoom chats, digital brunches, created content from our homes or our backyards. And really what I saw it as is like, I see right now as a moment of how do we actually start to build authentic relationships with one another? How do we start to build these different coalitions and these partnerships with people? Because now it's just not about, now it's not about me growing my brand. It's like, how do I leverage, my friend's brand, or how do I, leverage this organization who, believes what I believe in, or I believe in what they believe in. And one of my good friends and colleagues and I, we kind of like, we just started, hopping on live every day, and not every day, every other day. And we kind of started this podcast / kind of like fireside chat called Locked In. Cause I mean, shit, we all locked in for right now. And we saw it as like, all right,
you must be a creative. You must be a creative. I like that name. I like that. I'm curious. No, keep going. No. I was gonna say,
I was just gonna wrap up and just say, like, that's really where I kind of like, I've just been pointing people in, because interestingly enough, like, and like kind of being at the crux of social action, but like entertainment, film, art, fashion, it's been like people have been kind of like reaching out and being like, what do we do here and what do we do there? And I've just been kind of like really saying, like, okay, like, you have Michelle Obama, and like, as we all know, we're in an election year, and right now what we realize is that many questions have been kind of posed of how do people get out in the primaries? Are we gonna actually now look into an online form of voting? Are we gonna, how do we kind of disseminate voter suppression? Obviously, we knew that Black and brown communities have been facing this for hundreds of years, or as since we've had the right to.
To that point, and, like, we're getting oppressed, and like this to piggyback, because we have the perfect person, Kristal. I think a lot to that over at Priorities USA, because I'm curious, because we're starting to see preliminary polls, to Jamal's point, of people saying that, like, across demographics, that I'm less likely to vote, especially in Black communities and Latino communities. I don't think that my vote will be counted. There's more likelihood that I could be disenfranchised. Talk to me, like, you're Priorities. Talk to me about what you think, like, this is going to do to, like, the election landscape and the voting landscape.
Well, so first, thank you for having me. I'm Kristal Knight with Priorities USA, and I'm the political director. And we're a Democratic super PAC. And what we do, we create a lot of digital ads, just generally holding the president accountable for all the lies that he tells consistently. But one of the things, one of the arms of our organization, we have a voting rights arm that's on our C3 side. And we're sharing a lot of information about when primaries get pushed back. A lot of states push their primary back because of COVID-19. But now that it's going, on into the summer, people don't know when they're actually going to begin to have their primary vote in their respective state. And so we're communicating with our partners. We have a monthly partner briefing where we share with all the folks that we do business with and people who are just good faith partners about, like, how is your program changing in spite of what's happening? How are you shifting from a traditional field program to something that's digital? How can states implement a vote by mail policy quickly? Like, what does that process look like? And really just sharing that information broad and wide. We have a large Twitter following, and so we put out a lot of information daily on our Twitter feed, just letting people know. I personally share some of our digital ads on my personal Facebook page, not Facebook page, but Instagram page, just to make sure that people are aware of what is happening, not only with the election, but just with the landscape of their particular state. Because we do need people to vote. We know that this virus is going to negatively affect the election. I mean, we just have to be real about it. But I think what we can do is to continue doing the digital ad creation, continue sharing things, continue posting things, asking people to get out and vote. And hopefully people will see the seriousness of this because of what is happening and the lack of response that the president has had over the last couple of months.
I'm curious, like, coming from the super PAC, so you're on the one side that is, for people that are watching and don't know what a super PAC is, like you guys are from the political expenditure side where you can spend untapped amount of money. You have people who donate to you, or organizations or people who donate to you, that allows you to be, like you said, to be able to put up ads and put up money to kind of call Trump out on all the things that he's doing. But I'm curious to, like, for Audra, for everybody, Audra is she's not an intern, she's a boss, but she forever will be one of my favorite interns. But being such a boss and being so connected, seriously, Audra, like being connected through Congressional Black Associates and through all your different, like you got eyes and ears all throughout Congress and understanding how this legislation is moving, but you're also connected to some people who now in this crisis, I know every member is getting thousands upon thousands, if not hundreds daily, thousands upon thousands of correspondence, questions. Like, what on your side are you got from the inside are looking at, like, how this whole, both the election and governance season is changing? Because people still be going up to the Hill for votes and stuff. Like, staffers be checking in, like, I just risked my life, y'all, for a vote. Like, talk to me.
Yeah, so hi everybody, my name is Audra Jackson. I actually work on the House floor. Thank you, Cameron, for having me be here. I find it, so on Friday, they had the vote for the third stimulus package, and I see the concern on members' faces. Like, you see the longing to find a solution to everything that's going on. And you even see because a lot of it is staff doing a lot of the groundwork, but you see this kind of burden, I feel like, that everybody feels on the House side and in Congress in general. So for me, I found it very helpful on my own platform just to put out, like, positivity and godly things, because in this time, like what Mia said, I really believe there's going to be a mental health crisis out there coming soon, and not to speak it upon us. But if we don't take care of ourselves, I see that. And even when you look at a lot of these members, they're older and they fly back and forth to their districts and all of that. That puts a toll on the body. So I find it, for me personally, just helpful to put out, like, positive things out there, but also to what the information I do have, I make sure I share it on my platforms. You can follow me on Instagram at Audra L. Jackson, but also to just making sure I distribute important information in reliable sources and making sure people know, like, this is reliable, this is credible, this is actually coming from a member of Congress. And I do want to mention something. I think elections, hopefully they don't suffer, but I think if we pivot it in the way of where this money is moving, we can really get people to start really pushing toward their state legislator elections. You know, with this census and stuff, I'm from Texas, the Texas legislator is going to be redistricting. Third ward. Houston, Texas to be exact. But anyways, if you look at what's really on the ballot in November, when we start talking about what's on the ballot, then we're able to really get people out and vote. Because if you're, like, the governor of Texas is the one that's going to be distributing all this money to these small businesses and to other big corporations. So it's important that we make sure we hold those people accountable so we can really spend it.
Hey, I want to switch real quick because there's a robust conversation popping off in the chat that I want to bring. We got about 15 or 20 minutes. Well, we got time because I go to about 8 live and then I do the after party, because then I feel like every time I've had this, the moment you stop recording, there's a whole nother conversation pop off for whoever can stay on. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time, because there's a question around mental health. Like, as you can see, like I'm around, you can't tell, but I got on my Nipsey blues. I got on one of my Nipsey shirts. Like, yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Nipsey Hussle, who I had been hip to for a while, ever since I've been hip to maybe a few months before his 2000, he was the 2011 Double XL freshman cover. I don't know if anybody who's big hip hop fans, like, every year Double XL puts out, like, who the freshmen are. They've been doing it for maybe about 12, like 11 or 12 years now. The most iconic one that kind of picked who's going to be the future stars, it was Wiz Khalifa, Nipsey Hussle, J. Cole, Big Sean was on that joint, J Rock from TDE. It was like I think it was like one dude on there that flopped. OJ the Juice Man, who I love. I say that to say, so I've been hip to knit for a big time, and something that we just experienced, like we just his 1 year passing, and he's like been a strong black man. Then like Kobe passing this year, and then now being quarantined, like so much is being put on like the mental health. There's been a lot of people that are hip hop or related to the hip hop kind of community and generation that have passed. And it's me and several other people mentioned, and Renee, like people getting your sleep, understanding your mental health. Like real quick, if and this is a round robin to everybody, men and women, what is one thing that you're doing to keep your mental health in check? Just a quick answer, because I want to get everybody's kind of answer.
I'll jump in and just say that one of the things that I've been I do it anyway, and I just make sure that this is something that I keep in my rotation. So I have a 5-minute journal, and I think about what I'm going to do for the day, but also like, what am I grateful for the day? And then again at night. So that's something where I know for at least 5 minutes at the top of the day and the end of the day that I'm like focused on just checking in with myself. I definitely, and I have it now, I have my essential oil going, but just being mindful of like, what do I need to be what do I need to keep top of mind in terms of what needs to happen day in and day out, but also what am I grateful for? So yeah.
So one of the things that I do a morning devotional. My pastor at my church is having 30 days of prayer, and he's probably going to extend it to the full extent of this while we're quarantined. But I see a therapist, and I think Black mental health matters, and we need to be talking about that more. Every other Monday, I definitely now that it's virtual, I log on and we just talk about life stuff. And it doesn't mean that anything is happening, but like this is affecting everyday life. And so I need someone that's not my friend, that's not my family, to professionally talk about and release all of this energy that I'm feeling. And so I'm an advocate for mental health and seeing a professional counselor or professional therapist. So that's one of the ways that I'm maintaining my mental health. And I also run every morning. I run 2.5 miles just so I can, breathe in clean oxygen and release all of the energy that I felt from the day before.
I can make mine real quick. Sleeping, as we mentioned earlier. I love a good nap, and I have been napping like I've never napped before. And I feel that my body is like, thank you, sister. Additionally, it is because I do not get sleep when we're always running and doing stuff for work and working late hours. I'm like, yes, I would take 20 minutes to myself and take a nap. Also, Netflix. I have binge watched the most reckless, ridiculous, foolish programming ever, and I feel great about it. And it makes me feel great about like there's people in the world creating great things.
Amen.
Laugh and smile. So I'm here for it. I love it. Sleep, Netflix.
Anybody else?
One of the things that I've been doing is at nighttime, I become YouTube king, and I literally will unplug and watch the most mindless, entertaining YouTube stuff, a content that will make me laugh. And when I'm telling you laughing, I'm talking about jiggling in the bed laughing. It helps me unwind and unplug, and it's wonderful. Essential oils are great as well. We've got lavender in our bedroom and eucalyptus. My son is running around. He needs to get some lavender right now before that bath. And then we also, words with friends, just anything I can just like swipe my finger across the screen and unplug for a moment and just like not be dad, be husband, but just be like in front of a screen, and also making sure I check in with my friends. Like this is an unusual time right now. So if it's sending someone a note, reconnecting with people through Instagram stories, leaving a comment, I'm thinking about you, I hope you're well, how is your family? Just having meaningful conversations with people aside from so what do you do? Where are you from? That, that really means something right now. And then the last thing I've been doing just in my personal meditation, I'm going to be sharing a word every day in the month of April just to help encourage other people. And however it lands, let it land. But I need to make sure that what's inside of me comes out, and I'll be sharing those meditations as well.
Make sure you, Larry, I need to be on that, whatever list, email, Instagram. If I just want to get a word, because I've increased the amount of prayer. I've definitely seen that over the last couple of weeks. I've increased the amount of daily devotional for myself. That's kind of helped me as a person who's a ultra like extrovert and stuff like that, and wanting to be out around people, but it's like finding that inner peace. So like I'm thankful for anybody who's offering words, prayers, positive energy. So make sure whatever list you're on, I would love to be on it.
That's covered.
I wanted
Who
to
else,
ask
what y'all doing for your mental health?
So
Audra?
go ahead, Audra. Yeah, after you.
Okay. So I wake up, I have a morning routine because I actually recently went through grief because my grandmother passed away in October. So it changed your life. So what I do is I wake up, I do the Bible app. They have plenty of Bible plans, and then I meditate on the Calm app. So they do have a daily meditation every day, which is great. So it's a lesson every time. And then I pray, and then my church, Alfred Street, they have a prayer call. Let me know if y'all need it.
Amen.
I got you. So yeah, I think it's just this time we really have to create a routine in something that's positive and something that's just for you, like not for anybody else. So meditation and prayer really do that for me.
Angel, you wanted to say something real quick? What you share something?
So 2 things that I do. I think it's really important to be kind to ourselves right now, and whatever that looks like. So we can have difficult days, but just making sure that we're just very mindful that we don't have to be perfect, and everybody is figuring this situation out right now. And the other thing that I do is make sure that I kind of set rewards for myself, no matter how small it is, just acknowledging like, hey, I did that today. You know, there are some people who can't show up. There are some people who are tucked in and feeling very anxious, but just being able to show up and be my best self, not just for myself, but for other people. I definitely just want to make sure that I'm like, hey, if that deserves a glass of wine or that deserves this, just making sure there's little trinkets to make sure that you're rewarding yourself. That's it.
That's cute.
I think everyone's mentioned a lot of what I do. So Naomi, you talked about really grounding yourself in gratitude, and Audra, you talked about giving yourself and hopefully getting hugs from little. I'm sorry. But I also, so a lot of us are probably in the same space where we spend a lot of time in our heads and working out mentally, and that can be just exhaustive. So one of the things I've taken to do, I'm really big on supplements in terms of prevention, but I also have a hard time turning my mind off when I'm about to sleep. So this is not me giving medical advice.
Preach.
I take melatonin before I go to bed. I don't take it with wine, so I won't be taking it tonight. But I do have a wind down routine in the evening where I try to lower my lights. I have a dimmer on my living room light. As much as I try to have the laughs with the funny shows, I also try to have a space between when I'm watching a screen and when I'm about to go to bed. And then finally, this is just my mantra: grace, space, and gratitude. That's really what I try to always give myself. So,
say that again. Can you say it again?
Yeah, grace, space, and gratitude. And I think it was Angel.
Grace, space, and gratitude. I like that.
Angel was talking about being kind to yourself, and that's definitely a practice of mine. None of us are perfect, but we're all striving, right? So we want to make sure that in all that we're doing, it's good to be self-aware and to give a checklist, you know, have an internal checklist, but be okay with not being, with not always being quote unquote perfect. And then with space, I need time. I'm introverted, but my job requires me to be extrovert. I think some of us are also in a similar space there. And then finally, just grounding yourself in gratitude. So grace, space, and gratitude. Oh, and stay in your body. I practice hot yoga. Clearly, I can't practice now, but I try to go out on my balcony and just stretch it out, get in the body. And then energy. I also encourage you males to get in your feminine energy and get in your body at this time. That'll definitely be helpful. Yeah.
What y'all doing? CJ, what you doing?
Really quick.
Stay mentally fit.
Yeah. So several of the things that I'm doing, decluttering mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. These are things that are important. In a time that the world is chaotic, it's really important for me to feel peaceful in my home. And so I've literally been addressing things that I had been putting off for a long time when I had the excuse of being able to put it off. But now that, you know, we are isolated and we're at social distance, I really had an opportunity to really like work on many, like literally cleaning out my closet for real. You know what I mean? And it's
cleaning out my closet. Are you listening to Eminem when you do it?
Hey, I'm probably low key listening to old Kanye or new Jay-Z or Jay Electronica right now. So that's really what I'm jamming. That's my Saturday music. But yeah, like decluttering. And in addition to that, picking up some hobbies or picking up things that I used to do that brought me peace of mind. Started drawing again. Started making music again. So those things.
Okay, Mr. Renaissance man. I see you, brother.
I started like new traditions with friends sometimes, like our family. One of the things I do every night before I go to sleep, me and my mom have been every night since this kind of quarantine started happening, passing a song back and forth to each other. So last night's song I told her to listen to was "You Brought the Sunshine" by the Clark Sisters. So I don't know what she's gonna tell me tonight. It's my birthday, so I mean, but it's been a cool little back and forth between us, and I'm looking forward to whatever she's got planned for tonight.
Who else? A couple.
Okay,
Go.
Oh,
you can't see. I'm pointing to you like people can see my.
No. I mean, I think you guys all said really great things, and I practice all of that stuff, you know, as decluttering and things that you've been putting off for a long time, getting, you know, all your financial stuff in order, everything that you know, didn't have time for when you were kind of like running around, you can actually sit and be present, you know, for what you are planning to do. And I also try to like take a walk outside every single day.
Amen. I've been walking too. I've been just for at least 30 minutes.
Touch with nature and
Social distancing.
Yeah, you know, social distancing, of course. But I take my niece, you know, out for a walk, and then we just, you know, a bird is, I'm like, look at the bird, you know. So it's just like kind of exploring nature, and that kind of gives me some peace, because sometimes, you know, when you are in the house, you know, you start reflecting and things start playing in your head, and you know, and you just, so it's like you really have to kind of just take that time for yourself and get out of your own head and do something, you know, do something like that. For me, being outside is one of them. And so I mentioned Essence has been doing some really great content. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but every day I think they had Charlemagne the God on today, and they had like a meditation moment yesterday that I participated in. So for about like 20 minutes before they went into their whole wellness house, like they had a woman on there who led a meditation, you know. So those are kinds, and think Deepak Chopra and Oprah.
Oh yeah, I'm hip to the Deepak Chopra one. I've got
they
that.
have like 21 days of free meditation as well. So I mean, there's a lot of things out there just to kind of keep people grounded. And I said, you know, I do it for a living in reference to creating content just to help with people's mental health for clients. So I mean, those are all kinds of things that, you know, you guys gotta like tap into, so to keep yourself, you know, sane and active. So.
And Cameron, I hate to break the rules by chiming in twice here, but just letting you all know, so the American Medical Association is partnering with Essence for the wellness houses. And if there's other,
You better get that plug in, AMA.
You know, because
but that's a good thing. We need
I'm
that.
so proud of them, because I'm telling you, these have mostly been white folk who have never done this. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. And it comes through the Center for Health Equity. So shout out to my team. But if you all have ideas and such like that you would like to see, more so in terms of the medical side, at least especially through the Essence platform, feel free to shoot me that message. We're also going to be at Essence Fest, and we'll hold.
If Essence Fest happens.
Well, it'll happen in the fall.
They're doing fall this year.
That's what I'm hearing. Philippe Jamal. Philippe, how are you? What are you doing to hold your mental health together, brother?
Yes, so I saw one of your questions. I think it's about music. So that's been my go-to music. I listen to Marvin Gaye and of course Stevie Wonder, The Keys of Life, and that's been what's getting me through all this meditation and prayer, and then inspirational and motivational stuff on YouTube every morning. That's what I listen to, whether it be a sermon whether it be a speech, and that's what gets me through, and just decompress and get ready for my day. Because like I said before, I'm a patient advocate, and during these hard times, like Mia said, that's a lot of stuff mentally going on because people are scared. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Jamal, what you doing to keep your mental health together, brother?
Man, I'm doing a lot. I don't know if y'all can see, but I used to have this like crazy red color in my room. And I repainted my whole room, got some new furniture in here, and just kind of like figured out that like, yo, if I was gonna be here for a while, why not like, you know, kind of fix the feng shui? Just really, I think really what's therapy for me is, like I said, I'm connecting with like a lot of people always, and I've just been really trying to keep in contact with my peoples, my friends far and wide, and checking in on them and seeing like, you know, what they're doing to keep their you know, just selves afloat, you know, just kind of checking on their mental health. And yeah, like I'm a big gamer, so I've been playing a lot of video games, going for walks, like, you know, kind of tapping into these IG battles, but also, you know, I'm not a super religious person, but I've been making sure that I just found, you know, through this period, just kind of like strengthening my relationship with God, and just like a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation, and a lot of like real, you know, daily affirmations. Because I feel like, you know, as everyone kind of mentioned earlier, you know, being, you know, just being, you know, lenient with yourself, you know, like I said, like, you know, there's a stigma of, you know, hustlers, we gotta be on our toes at all time, we gotta be productive, knocking off everything on our checklist. And it's like, yo, everyone's at home right now, you know, if you're not running the country, or, you know, high state, you know, that term, essential, you know, it's really using this time and this, you know, this moment of free time to really start to mentally declutter, and, you know, just start to like grow that relationship of like inner self. So I've been really kind of keeping myself kind of like in between those lines, and, you know, just figuring out more, you know, more about what I want to do. Especially like one thing I always say to myself is like, what's that first thing I do when I, you know, when I get out of quarantine? So I've been really just like seeing where that takes me, and just kind of like, you know, kicking back, and also taking a lot of naps for sure.
Taking naps. I want to close out. Des, I think you're the last person. Like, what are you doing to keep your mental health like together, and keep your mental health like just stay sane in this time of like isolation and so forth?
Sorry about that. I left for a second. My phone died. But you know, right now, especially with a 2-year-old, I think it's super important, and y'all with kids, it's super important to maintain your mental health. So for me, I also do a routine. In the mornings, I wake up and I pray before my son Ace gets up. I get about 30 minutes to an hour before he gets up. So I usually just get up and, you know, have my prayer session, and then kind of worship as much as I can. And then in the evenings after he falls asleep, which he just did, I try to read my Bible. I also have the Bible app and do the plans. And those really help me a lot, especially to stay focused and just to be on it every single day. And then walks are very important for Ace and I, because, you know, he gets fresh air, I get fresh air. We're able to get out of the house. I think this is week 3 that we've been in quarantine now. So, you know, it's super important for someone who has so much energy to kind of breathe fresh air while social distancing. But yeah, that's kind of what I do to maintain my sanity.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna adapt a couple of these, like the Bible app. I haven't been on that. I have the Bible app, and then I've taken it off.
Hey.
But I get other. I mean, my dad's a pastor, and he and my mom send me like math scriptures, and I have a different app, but I don't have like the Bible app. I have the Bible on my phone for all the people who think I'm a superhero. But I want to thank y'all for joining me. This has been like a living, evolving experiment. Like, it's so good to see so many faces. Some people I don't see as much. Some people I know well. Some people I've known before, after all this. But just having a good conversation, getting a good group together, I see through the chat that everybody has like been connecting, dropping their information. Again, like everybody is here certified and is really hardworking in what they're doing. So the idea is to really connect and like I said, sponsor some good conversation. I do ask that everybody who's watching or listening, and you please share, follow Hip Politics. We're on Instagram. I mean, we're on YouTube is our big platform for video, but we're on Instagram, Hip Politics Podcast and Hip Politics News. We've got a great episode of the Hip Politics Podcast dropping tomorrow with TJ Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew, giving some behind the scenes stories and never heard before stories of Michael Jackson. Oh, look at Larry. Oh, is that the little one? Oh,
She was crawling to daddy. She was crawling to daddy. So mommy brought her over. Say hi, Elle. Say hi,
Hey,
Elle. Yeah, you waving? Good job, baby.
Hey.
Good
Yeah.
job.
But I wanted to thank everybody for joining. Thank everybody for coming on. This has been a evolving experiment. It's going to probably adjust after this Friday. It's going to adjust because I'm going to do like another basically just playing out for three weeks and do probably 2 times a week some very centered conversations, something around Black and Latino partnerships. We're going to do one around the gig economy, do one around like entertainers and their influence, something around student loans, so a couple target conversations, because I just think there's so much that smart people, like smart and connected and like people, caring people like ourselves, who are, when we're getting together, like we can't we need to have these conversations of like, how are we going to both move during this and past this. So I just really wanted to get these kind of culture conversations kicked off. I appreciate everybody for taking some time. Appreciate everybody for having a drink and a conversation with the kid. We're a little bit over time. Well, this is like, there's no set time. I mean, we're at home. Where you gonna go? But with that, shout out to one time for our RP to again the Nipsey Hussle. I've been rocking Hustle and Motivate. Yeah, that's the song that's really been getting me through. It was getting me through the year before he passed, like when he dropped it. But it's just like just trying to stay trying to stay hustling, stay motivated. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you for bringing us together.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
We're going to end the live again. All the socials and everybody will be in the description. We're going to end the live, and then the happy hour after party is available for those. No, I'm just kidding. But with that, so thank you again. You've tuned in to another edition of the Hip Politics Hip Hop Happy Hour.
Grayson wants to say hi, Cam.
April 1st. Oh, you got 2 kids. See, that's code. I'm gonna end with the kids. I'm gonna still talk about
good night, everybody.
Get more clicks.
So good night, everybody.
But on that note, thank you everybody, and tune in again this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and like that.
And also, I'm sorry to anyone that I've sent private messages. I do not know how to use this app. And I didn't push everyone, and I'm sorry.
On that, as that live confession. I love you. You're so nice. It's been another edition, and we out.